Hi, it's Wednesday, it's 3 o'clock. Welcome to Together Unlocked. We are having a few problems as a result of Google today. So if this continues, just bear with us. We are very pleased to have you joining us. I'm Ju Gosling. I'm Artistic Director of Together 2012, who is bringing you this live stream today. With me in my East London studio, as she has been locked in since March, is our chair, the artist and documenter Julie Newman. And sitting on her lap temporarily, I hope, is a large black fluffy cat called Leonardo. If you're watching this on our website and if you want to access our live captions, that's what you need to do. Then under the Together 2012 Unlocked TV page, you can also find a page about all of the animals that make random appearances in our studio. Before I give you some audio description and tell you a bit more about the show, I'm going to go over to the West Midlands. We have two co-hosts over in the West Midlands in separate spaces in the same house at the moment. So I'm going to start with Josh and then I will bring Robin into the stream.
Hi everyone, I am Josh Surgeonator. I'm also one of the hosts of Together Unlocked, and I am a PhD research student as well. Today I have my same blonde hair, but I've added some black and gold headphones because I'm not in the normal studio space. It has all the fancy microphones, so I've got some headphones that have got a built-in mic. I'm wearing a grey t-shirt. I'm wearing a red cardigan that has kind of a white and blue edging on the middle. It says NYC, that's the wrong side, on the left breast. And then I'm also wearing a very soft scarf that is half blue and half red. And that links in with our theme for today, which we're going to talk about slightly later on.
Thanks, Josh. And just to reassure viewers, you're doing the last bit of your self-isolation because of a contact, but you have had a negative test. But
Yes.
the rules say that even with a negative test, you must isolate. So we're really pleased to see you still in your little room. And I can't remember if you've just said, but you're a university PhD student, so you're just enjoying a little bit of real student experience without going back to Sheffield. Let's see if we can bring Robin in now.
Aha.
Hooray.
Yay.
We might need to turn you up slightly, Robin.
Okay, hold on. 1, 2, 1, 2. How's that?
Keep talking a little bit louder.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. How's that sounding?
I think that sounds very good indeed.
Okay. So good afternoon, everybody. I think it's been rushes all around today. So without any further ado, I am Robin Surgeonator. I am Business Director at Together 2012 and the fourth equal co-host of Together Unlocked TV. Up here, yes, I'm in the other studio, the non-pandemic ridden studio of Sutton Coldfield. Today I am looking, well, I've just had to go out in the rain. I had a bit of a rush trip to a doctor's and back, and it is raining, and so I have a slightly, well, showered look. There you go.
And if you turned your lights on, we could see you even better.
They are on. They're on.
Okay, so we've definitely got some strange things going on with this new system. We broadcast through a platform called B.Live, and they've been updating at the same time as Google have been doing different things. So I think I need say no more. But we have a wonderful show coming up. I'm going to do a bit of audio description for us next, but it's National Poetry Day tomorrow. And Wednesday, in any case, is our poetry day. So we've got a wonderful time of poetry. We will also, as is usual, be doing virtual nature watch with Merlo, the assistance dog, who is still up in Norfolk. We will be doing our Clockwork Paralympics to see which teddy bear is going to win the gold medal. And we will have our sports and gaming's weekly reports from Josh. So lots and lots to do. I'm Ju Gosling, also known as the artist Ju90. I've got a moth-eaten henna'd crop, Corona crop as we call it, very similar to the dog's, except that I don't henna him. I've got black plastic glasses, black wrist braces, silver jewellery, and I have a short sleeved, not as bright as Monday's yellow t shirt, but a yellow t shirt that says "No body is sin loss," and that's actually an Austrian T-shirt, and I think it means "No body is senseless," but it does have a slightly different translation. I dug it out. We've been going through and seeing just how old our T-shirts are. I reckon this is at least 16 years old because I'm almost certain that when I went to perform at this festival, it was European Year of Disabled People, which was 2003. We miss all of our international artists, and indeed, we miss going over to see you. But so I thought this was a little bit of a celebration of the international community of disabled artists who, of course, are currently forced, like everybody else, to just communicate on Zoom. Behind us is our graffiti banner. You can only see a little bit of it, but as well as saying Together 2012, it has pictures of all of the activities that we include. So that's visual art, film, photography, poetry and spoken word, of course, street art, carnival arts, drama, and much, much more. So we're going to put on a film later to show you, to tell you more about that and how you can join in from home. Sitting underneath the banner is my teddy bear, and I will introduce the teddy bear when it comes to the Clockwork Paralympics. So, Julie, you've been very patient. Who are you? What do you look like?
I'm Julie. I'm Julie, the chair of Together 2012. I've got, oh dear, hair which is suffering. It's suffering from lack of attention. It's golden red. I have dark rimmed glasses. I have a nice blue t-shirt, mid blue t-shirt, and on the front of it, it's got a Celtic knot of hares dancing. I have a bronze pendant of two wolves howling at a moon, and I've got a harvest moon, which is the first full moon after the equinox.
And if anybody's thinking that they've seen all of Julie's t-shirts quite a lot, but they're getting more and more faded, yes, we've been stuck here without a break for 6 or 7 months. We've lost count, but we are intending to have a forage for the very first time over to Julie's flat tomorrow for winter clothes and new clothes. Josh and Julie have been growing their hair. I've been cutting mine along with the dogs, and Robin has had one proper haircut. So I have offered to cut Julie's hair on many an occasion, but now it's getting long enough to style. I've stopped offering because hey, that just looks like more fun. So it's National Poetry Day tomorrow. Wednesday, in any case, is our Together Pop Up Poetry Club Day. In more usual times, we run our club's programme on weekday mornings in East Ham, free for any disabled person who can get there and anybody you want to bring with you. At the moment, the Poetry Club is operating as a phone based group. We call you and we pay the calling costs. We can supply volunteers if you're, for example, visually impaired or you're otherwise unable to write. So we do have a few spaces. If you're interested, get in touch. I'm going to take this text off the bottom of the screen in a minute because I know it can be a little bit irritating, but it's got our email address and our website. So that's info@together2012.org.uk or www.together2012.org.uk. Each week you have a theme, don't you? And so we also share the theme for other people to join in. And just tell us a bit more about the theme and how it went this morning, and then we'll listen to a few of the poems that have been written.
The club itself is led by international artist Alison Marchant. It's facilitated by Noel, who is our engagement support officer, and he's the one who sorts out the phone calls. So if you do want to join, it's advisable to contact us in advance of the date so that Noel can plan his phone calls, because we've got a central supplier for the free calls. The message of the day was "Who am I?" and I found it quite challenging actually. Um, as usual, actually, I must say, I do find the themes that Alison chooses really good and really make me think. I can't just glide through them without thinking. We had a really nice big group this morning. Not everybody has participated in sending in or sharing their poems.
And that's fine,
It's
isn't it? You don't
absolutely
have
fine.
to.
No, not in the slightest. But it was very interesting, again, to hear the range of perspectives and critique, and also to explore how people related to the theme, which was "Who am I?" Alison described it as it can be what you look like, it can be how you feel inside, it can be as a person who does such and such. So there's many, many ways of relating to the theme. The first half of the session, people read out either poems that they'd written themselves, poems that they'd chosen to go along with the theme, or poems that they liked. And again, there's an opportunity to respond to those by everybody who joins in. And then at 11 o'clock, we say goodbye to each other until about 20 past when Noel has to start calling us back in again. So effectively, we have about 20 minutes to write a poem in haste, or if you're sensible, um, and prepared, you can do it in advance. There's absolutely nothing that says it has
Or
to be
write more
done.
than one, of course.
Indeed, if you're very, very competent, you can write lots. I can't. I'm not that competent.
But you do write, well, of course, as we will go on to see, Julie is a very competent poet, but you write longer poems. And I think, poem can be any length. And indeed, we've had people write 2 or 3 words and they've actually been quite stunning, haven't they?
They have. Mine not much longer today, but it's not particularly stunning. But it's sort of like it is a response. Again, thinking about the club, it's really interesting how everybody's style is so different. And yet, I think I said this last week, it comes together like an orchestra. Everybody's parts sort of like blend in with everybody else's. So it's actually quite harmonious.
It is, and we very much welcome your poems, including, of course, you reading them on video. We can also arrange to record you reading a poem over Zoom if you'd prefer to do that, either on the theme or anything else you like. So, do you mind if I ask you, Julie, to read us your poem? We'll share a few and then we'll talk about National Poetry Day, and then we have some contributions from the Surgeoners as well.
How lovely. Yes, absolutely. Mine is called I Am, which is a variation of Who Am I, as you can imagine. I used to dance through the leaves that lay on the street as I walked to school. They crackled and flew, caught by the wind. Although those days have long passed, in my heart of hearts, my nose searches for the smell of those leaves.
Thank you. Yes, that was short for you, but I thought it was absolutely beautiful.
Thank you.
Response from anybody else?
No, I thought it was great and really evocative because what you're bringing is together the sounds and the memories, as it just makes me remember walking to school, and I think about conker leaves and sweet chestnuts and trying to crack them open and eat them, and all of that from just those few words. So no, very evocative.
Thank you.
Yes, and absolutely. And in fact, I remember because I went to school about 20 miles away. So you had a walk, a train ride, and a
Long
bus
walk.
ride. Yes. And, but the bus ride was about 2 miles, but quite often we used to walk instead. And the final bit of the school, there were all these kind of blossoms. I mean, I don't know what they were. I'm not really that kind of person, but they were very beautiful. Big trees, lots of blossom, and sometimes it's a sound, sometimes it's a smell, sometimes it's the sight of something. But like you say, these things are very evocative. Robin, I think you hopefully have one from Duncan Bridgestone.
I do, hopefully being linked to the technical maelstrom I think that we've had today. So yes, so we have a poem from Duncan. I will just start. Who am I? How do I find myself this morning? I just pulled back the covers, and there I was. I am greying at the temple, also Embankment and Blackfriars, all over town. But don't let it get you down. I got my own teeth, good grief, and all my own hair. But don't tell the mayor I'm shy. That's why.
Yeah, and just hearing those two again, it becomes so obvious that everybody is very, very different. One of the things that we absolutely focus on at Together 2012 is developing everybody as the creative person they are. It's not about doing it like somebody else, it's not about following somebody else's pattern or everybody trying to do everything the same. It's very much about being ourselves and expressing our creativity in whichever forms and as many forms we wish to do.
Can I just say very quickly, whenever I hear Duncan's poems, he makes me think of the Beat era and the clubs. I don't know if anybody's seen Legally Blonde, where they go like that. They click their fingers. And back in the poetry clubs, when you heard a poem that you really liked, you just went as a way of applause. And I always feel like doing that when I listen to Duncan's lovely poems.
I think you should, although of course for somebody like me that would pretty much finish my hands off. So, but then clapping isn't great
We could do
either.
this.
So, yes, exactly. I prefer the sign version. I've got the wrong hand up again because
Not so good on the phone.
but not so good on the phone. But I think clicking noises. Well, you could click with your.
You could?
Yeah. So which decade are we going back to, Julie? Is this the
60s?
60s? Sounds
Yeah.
absolutely amazing.
It was a wonderful time.
I'm going to stop myself getting diverted onto a whole description of beat clubs and poetry in the 60s, only
I
because.
came out clicking, it's fine.
So this next poem is from Dawn Barber, and Dawn's been with us from the beginning. In fact, she volunteered on our very first poetry project in 2012. And she says, and it's really called Dawn. Who am I? Dawn. My name is Dawn. I'm an artist and I write poetry, and I also love dancing and singing. I love to help people. It makes my heart feel wonderful. I love animals and I would do anything for them. I love nature, garden, trees, and flowers. And I know our lives are different right now. I hope we can all help one another and try to have a laugh and keep ourselves going because friends are what we need right now. And thank you, Dawn. I couldn't agree with you more. Dawn has no online access or indeed mobile access. So it's just been great to see her coming back to join us through the telephone group. Although ever since March, all of our regulars in our clubs have had personalised programmes to follow at home with telephone support and also casework support, again from our engagement support worker, Noel. If you're in need, whether you're Newham or not, please do contact us on info@together2012.org.uk and we will do our very best to signpost you to somebody who can help if we can't.
Again, may I just very quickly say, in relation to our Dawn, what she's shared and what she wants to share, I think, is the fact that she uses our club structure to pattern her week, so that from the very, very beginning, she's done textile art on a Tuesday, she's done poetry on a Wednesday, and she's done painting and pictures on a Friday, and she's going to start doing some of the dance exercises on a Monday. So I really have been so impressed, but I think it's very useful to know that if you've got a structure, it helps to pass the time.
Yes, and I think whatever that structure looks like, I mean, it could be as with me, oh, I'm going to start my day an hour later because I don't actually have to travel to work and I seem to be working later and later in the evenings. But yeah, I think structure can always be helpful. So you have a poem from Pizer Malik, and Pizer is also a member of our theatre company, Act Up Newham. One of the reasons I wanted to highlight that is Black History Month starts on Friday, and we will be profiling disabled artists of colour throughout October, including, of course, all of the members of Act Up Newham. So we'll be finding out more about Pizer as well as Glory, Grace, and others later in the month. So this is Pizer's poem. She's not been able to record it herself, so she's asked us to read it.
That's right. This is Pizer Malik. Who am I? Am I a girl? Yes, I am, because I like curls and wear frocks. Do I like animals? Yes, I gazed at horses and bullocks. Am I fond of vegetables and green? Yes, I eat lots of apples and pumpkin. Am I the only child? Yes, very pampered. I wasn't wild, but a bit short tempered. Was I a good pupil? Poor in maths, but good in rhythm. Was I a teacher? Yes, but not forever, because I end up as a lecturer and a tutor. Was I an efficient mother and housewife? Definitely. I brought up 5 daughters and a son alive. Was I a successful community builder? Oh, yes. With hard work and effort in bringing them together. Am I a good person? I believe yes, for so many reasons. Am I contented and grateful? Yes, always appreciated and thankful. That is me, my friend, who loves you to the end.
Oh,
Wow.
that's beautiful. Thank you, Pisa. Pisa, I think I was going to say, as with yourself, is in her 70s and has an amazing life to look back on, including, I believe, some involvement with Grey Eye, who are our effectively national disabled led theatre company. Before we read the poems from the Surgeoners, do we want to talk just a little bit more about National Poetry Day? It's very exciting. We had our virtual writer in residence, Penny Pepper, made a little film last Wednesday to alert us to the fact. And in fact, Penny has sent us a poem. Unfortunately, we've not been able to upload it today, but we're going to look forward to hearing that on Friday. And also tomorrow night, for anybody who's a regular at Together events, we have our October Zoom Together. That's an open mic music and poetry event, but of course, we will be focusing entirely on poetry tomorrow. I'm going to put the Zoom link up on the highlights and links page on our website under the main Together Unlocked TV page, but you can also email me for it at info@together2012.org.uk. I think it would be pretty hopeless trying to read the link out on the show anyway. So, Julie, National Poetry Day, what's the theme?
It's called Vision, and it's actually thinking like a poet. I find it a little bit strange, but it's fine. I mean, sort of horses for courses, I guess. Uh, I think the idea really is to get you to try to perceive the world rather than actually see it, if you can't see it for sure. But to perceive the world as a poet, and to sort of like to try and use a different vocabulary, so how are you? Oh, I'm all right. Yeah, all right. Are you all right? Yeah, I'm all right. Yeah, all right. So that's would be the everyday interaction. Whereas if you sort of say, and how might you be today? And then you could respond by saying, well, I'm absolutely fine. I'm loving nature. I'm in touch with the moon, blah, 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 blah. So it's a different way of expressing yourself, is what
I'm
I'm
just
trying to
sitting here
say.
totally confused. I can see why you were. Robin, how is it when you see the world as a poet?
Uh, Beautiful. Yeah, it's just an end. It's well, it's an endless supply of things to write about. Really, I mean, personally, the physical world is something I've written less about, as opposed to the kind of people interactions and societal things that I've tended to write more about. Um, but I think, I mean, well, Emily will tell you, I've got books of things of I just write titles down. So somewhere I've got a huge amount, or one like simple lines, and then I just write them down somewhere, and eventually they either become the title of a poem, or I think I'll go back and do them. So it's there is that um, taking notice of the world around you, and thinking, oh, okay, yeah, that's a good idea for a song, or that's a good idea for a poem, or that would make a great line in a poem or a song. So it's a veritable feast of poetic food.
Now, I think that was really, really helpful and much more useful than my flip comment, which is people tend to write poems when they're miserable. So, seeing the world like a poet at this moment in time, Not entirely sure. That's not to say there aren't happy poems and poems about all sorts of things, but I do think there is a stereotype that is also a little bit true, which is if we're having a fantastic time, we're not sitting down writing poems about it. But if we're having a dreadful time, we are. But
Yeah, I
like
mean, I
I say,
think I
that's
was
not
going to
a
say
helpful comment.
the old adage is that contentment stifles creativity.
I don't think that's the aim of the day. I think the aim of the day really is to encourage people to consider poetry.
Yes, no, absolutely. But I
And
mean,
to,
what
to
Ju's
share
saying
it.
is that, yeah.
And there are some great resources on the website. If you could just go through them and then we'll read the last couple of poems.
Sure, there's on the website itself. There's lots of educational materials for schools to use and for young people looking at the key stages. There's also some BBC collaborations, so there's some videos. Um, there's some uh, there's some workshop leads which you have to purchase, sadly, but there's a lot of free material there. Plus, there's a whole page on poems, and what they've got is they've got a whole selection of poets.
Sorry, audio description. Julie has just been loved bombed by a large black fluffy cat. Do your best to keep going.
There's, would you share the microphone with me, Leo? There's yeah, there's a selection of poets, some of whom are quite classical, going back to William Blake or who else?
Cat sitting on the iPad.
Yeah, cat
now.
sitting on iPad. So cat's bottoms. So yeah, there's a whole range of poets, contemporary and classical. And if you follow the links, you can they will take you into an example poem, which is usually very beautiful. Um, Emily Dickinson's was one that particularly struck me, and that's from that page. But I think it's an interesting resource. It's a UK wide initiative. It's not global, so it's really to get the UK discussing poetry, creating poetry, having it in the vocabulary, which is really important.
And I thought the recommendations were particularly interesting because, well, certainly in terms of Together's poetry library, which is sadly locked away at the moment, but I'm definitely going to go through the books they recommend and to check we have them all. I think, Robin, it's time for you to read your poem, and I'm just going to pop you up on the screen as a solo, although our mics will still be on.
Okay, and then okay. Okay, great. Well, thank you. So you get to see me in full glorious Technicolor. So my poem today is called Self-Examination, and it is actually taken from a much bigger piece called All the Things We Could Have Been, but I edited it to fit today. So here we go. Self-examination. Now, don't let it be said that I am afraid to take responsibility, as with a certain detachment, I can examine the feasibility of any given opportunity and evaluate the consequences, whether it will forward my dreams or bring me to my senses. But the real question surrounds my conduct in relation to my capacity. Did I make decisions based on fact or in viewing me and my spasticity? Did I give myself a fair crack at the whip, get stuck in, tense a stiff upper lip, recognize my weaknesses and gain some unseen strength from within? Or did I buckle to the oppression with such a potent efficacy, allowing me to seal my own fateful self-fulfilling prophecy? It's ever so demoralizing realizing negativity is a pandemic infection, spreading silently through my people, creating hopelessness and disaffection. And this still leaves the question unanswered as to how we judge ourselves, whether it is even possible to determine our everydays with undiluted resolve. It is impossible to live in a bubble, uninterrupted, blacking out the window to your soul, through which so many people demand a glimpse and are so often undeterred in having a go. Nothing is meant, don't mean to pry, just a comment as they pass you by. That's okay then. Wouldn't want to spoil their day then. I mean, who on earth am I? Who am I now? Who will I be? Am I nothing but the sum of all that has gone before? Yet, Despite all of this, when I go to drown my sorrows, I can't empty the glass past half. So maybe, just maybe, no matter what is done to you, you can still have the last laugh.
Wow, thanks, Robin. I thought that was excellent.
Thank you.
And I think we will finish the poetry section with a poem that EJ has sent over. And how old is EJ, reminds me, Robin?
At 13.
13.
And she literally wrote this, I don't know, in about 20 minutes. I said, you're home because you're not so brilliant at the minute. Why don't you write a poem for the show on the theme of who am I?
And needless to say, as with all of our young people's work, well, it's just better than ours. So, EJ Surgeonator, it's never too late. One day, I will wear my skin with pride, be glad to be alive and happy with who I am. Today, I can't do that, but maybe, just maybe, one day, I will skip on park walls, go and lie in the rain for the hell of it. One day, I will go out with my friends to a party or take my family to the zoo. Now, I drag my feet along the pavement. I stay inside all day. Now, I avoid people. My family only see a shell of me. But one day, my hopes will have come true. I'll have my new and old family around me. We'll see the animals in the zoo. All may not be perfect now, but we can be content, no matter how long it takes. So maybe I can pick my feet up on the pavement. Maybe I can take long walks in the park and invite my friends too. Because why wait? And so can you all take steps in the direction you want to go in. Brilliant, EJ. Can't really
Yeah,
say
really
anything
strong.
else about that. So I'm going to move on and leave us to think about that a little bit while we see our weekly virtual nature watch, where we send an assistance dog out to show us the outside world because, hey, it's still not safe for us to go out. And indeed, East London is just one big red blob on the coronavirus map at the moment, just waiting for a local lockdown. So instead, we will go walking with Merlot, Stera's assistance dog.
The head and shoulders of a black lab with a nice blue collar on, with I think bones on it. He's got a camera harness so that we can see ahead, which is why his head is showing. He's taking us through some woods. There was a path, but he seems to have gone off it. Most dog-like, I would say. There's lots of trees, but there is light through it, and it looks as if he's walking towards a field. He's having a good look round from time to time, just pausing, just to take the air. And now we can see a path. So good old Merlot's found the path. And on he trots. Well, he's not trotting, he's sort of walking in a slightly determined way, I would suggest. And he's coming towards the end of the path. And I believe there's a fence. And beyond the fence, oh no, you can turn left. And he's stopping and looking around. He's pausing, wondering which way to go. Yes, he said, I can go this way. I turn left. Oh my goodness, and there's a stile ahead of me with a gate through the trees into the field where there's lots of light and some sort of grain growing. It's still green, said Ju. Actually, it's a bit brownish as it's seasoning off. He pauses and considers, standing at the gate and looking through. And then here comes one of his people and opens the lock and takes him through, which is just what he needed. And it is actually at Merlot height. It's very green, with the occasional wild plant. How lovely! It's he's pausing and looking around. He's thinking about which way to go, and how nice to have that choice. It really makes a lot of difference for a dog to be able just to stand and sniff the air. That's their world.
And thank you for the audio description, Julie. And thank you, Stara and Hannah, for recording and sending that to us. I think quite soon we will have another one from my backyard, just to let people know what it still looks like a month on. But personally, I'm very, very pleased to be seeing, if you like, the sort of very large backyard that Stara and Hannah have acquired. Now they've moved temporarily from a flat that they
I'm
just
sure
got
they could get a 20-story block of single masonettes into your back garden in East London.
They'll probably try. They've tried everything else. But however, we won't dwell on that now. Instead, what we're going to look at is how you can join in from home and just show you some of the activities in this short film. Together 2012 is running a Join In From Home programme from our website together2012.org.uk. Click on the link at the top of the page, Join In From Home, to go straight to the main page where you have a wide range of accessible, inclusive creative activities, mostly using things that you would already have at home. At the top of the page and throughout the pages, you will also see videos in British Sign Language to translate the site for deaf people. These videos can also be useful if you have difficulties reading and you simply want to hear more of the content. The Join In From Home programme is based on the activities that we would usually be running in East London. All of our activities can be enjoyed by families at home, but we also have some of our favourite activities here from our family activity days, which we usually hold in the school holidays. Card making with pens, stickers and paper is also popular. You can show someone you're thinking of them by making them a special card, and if it can't be delivered safely, then send a photograph with a personal message or keep it till later. Here we have instructions for making a sock puppet, a storage jar or night light, or a lunchbox or storage box, all of which are really popular with our family activity days. And you can click on each of these links to get full instructions. So with the sock puppet, for example, you have lots of instructions with photographs to show you exactly what to do. Same with the storage jar. And same with the lunchbox or storage box. And you can see how effective it is just to use very, very simple techniques. Everyone is completely unique. The Pop-Up Poetry Club meets on a Wednesday morning. We also run regular poetry projects and poetry cafes. We're inviting you to write or sign a poem on the theme of Together and send it to us to share on social media. We're also going to be publishing an anthology of the Together poems in November, and everybody who contributes will get a copy of the physical book.
Ju, I think you might still be muted.
Now that's very odd. Sorry about that.
Shall we say that again?
Yes, why don't you say all of that?
I thought it was me.
At the beginning, it's there's a few changes to the system which have been, yes, a little bit challenging.
So, to say that again,
but quickly.
but very quickly, right. Picking up the theme of Together, Alison's decided that we're going to use that for next week's poetry club. And hopefully it'll help to focus our attention and we can contribute something on that subject for the book.
Great. I mean, we'd really like as many contributions as possible. And of course, you can send us more than one poem, any length, any genre, funny, miserable. We just love to see them all. There's no wrong poem, so please do send them in. And we very much welcome film poems. We've had a couple of great poems, read on film already. So yes, if you feel like reading them yourself, even better. But now we're moving on to our sporting section and our Clockwork Paralympics. We combine several things in this strange little ritual, but one of them is the virtual bear hunt, which is an international thing for young people to be able to see just see teddy bears when they're out on their walks or if they're at home going online. So we race our Clockwork toys just because we're a bit competitive, and the Surgeoners as Paralympians are the most competitive family in the world, they claim.
They're going to have to split the medal if they win it.
Yes, unfortunately.
Oh no, we've got one each.
We've only got 2 competitors. So what I suggest, actually, I don't know what I can suggest.
Well, Josh has just come up with the answer.
We're a joint team.
They're a joint team.
We've both got our own teddies and our own medals.
Happens
In case
to
we
be
win.
lying around.
Oh,
in his,
of course,
in his
I
seclusion.
see. Right. So, okay. So both of you are supporting one bear, but both teddies will wear a medal. That kind of figures, doesn't it? So here are our Clockwork Paralympics. I'm going to stick it on the screen and get you to do some commentary, Josh, as our sporting person.
Oh, wait, so before, don't start yet because we've got to tell you which one we're going to have.
Don't worry, I'm not going to start it yet, but I am just going to pop it. Well, in fact, I won't pop it up in a big screen until you tell me exactly which hand and introduce your competitor.
So we're going with the one in your left hand, which is as on the right side of the screen as it appears.
Because I believe you've worked out that competitor is more likely to win. So
no, we've done that. We decide before we get to this point because we never know who the competitors are going to be anyway.
That's not quite what I meant, but still, introduce the teddy.
Oh, right. So this is Harrod. He's making a new appearance. He's more of a senior runner these days, whereas our team is made up with Joshua.
And this is EJ Bear, which was the happy 21st birthday bear in a box that M got me for my 21st birthday.
And could we have a bit of audio description of your bears?
Oh, yes. So he's a grey bear, and he has a gold tag on his ear that says happy 21st birthday. And then he's in a white and blue box, and then on his feet, if I can figure out which way is left and right, one says 21, and then the other one says me to you, written on his feet.
Okay, and very quickly, ours is Harrod, also with his name on his feet. It says Harrod. But there you go. other shops are available, and he is, I guess, what you kind of a traditional kind of golden bear.
He is. And I have a traditional golden bear, except she's got quite short ears, and she's called Matilda, and she's dressed in an academic outfit with a mortarboard. So I got Matilda to celebrate my MA, and I brought Matilda out to say, if you're a student, don't worry, it finishes eventually. The debts never do, but you will get out of there. Because we know that so many, like Josh, are really not having a great experience at the moment. So now I'm going to put the race on, and Josh can tell us who wins.
So we have our 2 competitors that I don't know what they are yet, but we have a yellow competitor on our side and a white competitor on Ju's side.
I believe they're Clockwork Dogs.
Believe they're Clockwork Dogs.
Right.
So
set them off.
It's similarly a very wayward race. The competitors seem to have been getting very confused. I blame the new COVID instructions on one-way systems that the competitors seem to not know where they're going in most of the races recently.
No,
but I do believe it was a victory for the London office, I think.
Do you want to see it again?
No, you did win.
It was a London win. We just like to put that seed of doubt in your minds. That's all.
And of course it does, because inevitably, because I've got no short-term memory, I don't have a clue who's won. Julie, you have to take this.
I'm holding the bear, and I'm
Well, I'm afraid you're going to have to take the medal as well. because I've got to operate the computer again. Time
You
is
need a medal presenter. Where's Leo gone? Get into
There's never a fluffy black cat when you want one, is there?
yeah, get into Ernie's keep. Come on.
well, I could get my assistant stuff on it, but I have a horrible feeling the teddy bear might end up in the basket instead. We've been at work together properly for 7 months. Anarchy is reigning amongst the dogs as well as the cats. But in the meantime, while Jim is struggling because you haven't taken the knot off the back of the pet, the last teddy bear, which was also ours, Pink Ted, is very thin and elderly, so we had to put a knot in the middle. But ta-da, the bear is looking great. So now we're all set up for things competitive. Tell us your report on sports and gaming this week, Josh.
Yeah, so we'll start off with gaming because a few different things I wanted to touch on. So just to follow on from last week's show, I know that Dad mentioned Xbox Game Pass. I just want to kind of give a little bit more detail on what that is. It's a subscription service that Microsoft run. Kind of the base one is $7.99 a month. So it is a subscription. It does kind of tie you into spending that £8 a month, which if you don't have that, then that can be a lot of money. And it works out at kind of £95-96 a year. But it does give you access to kind of hundreds of games. And the thing that there's quite a lot of kind of modern kind of recent releases on there, and then certainly anything that's first party for Xbox in the kind of Microsoft have made it or released it. So they're kind of big flagship titles all get put onto Game Pass same day as release for you to kind of download and play for no additional price than the $7.99 a month.
And it's different to the PlayStation monthly subscription, isn't it? Which doesn't actually offer you the new games. Is that correct?
Yeah, so it's called PS Now, I believe is what it's called. And it's a similar sort of price. I think it's $8.99 a month. And again, it has a big catalogue of games, but it doesn't have as many kind of new games. There's not as much kind of recent titles. It tends to be more kind of that catalogue titles.
So just to pick up a conversation from last week for people who haven't gamed or haven't had a console but are thinking of investing in one for obvious reasons in terms of not being able to spend their money on other things, you very strongly recommended that people should get the existing Xbox, not the new one, and the PS4, not the PS5, because the pricing is so much better and they can play the same games. But does this sound like, in terms of the cheapest way to go forward, has the Xbox suddenly kind of pulled forward because you don't have to buy these incredibly expensive new games if you've got the subscription?
Yeah, for me, I mean, yes, it is kind of £96 a year, but if you kind of put that into the context that actually kind of those big, they call them kind of AAA games, you think of kind of Hollywood blockbuster is the equivalent, those big titles, even through a base, the standard editions are probably going to run you £50-60 a game. So yes, it is kind of £90-odd a year, but if you are someone that's into gaming and you are going to pick up lots of titles throughout the year, I think even if you only play some of the Microsoft games, if you play 2 games, you've already made money. Essentially, not made money, but 2 £60 games all of a sudden is £120. So if you're getting 2 or 3 games like that, it does work out cheaper.
Yeah, and I think it's the real concern that I think a lot of households have with buying a console is it's all very well having a console, but if you've got to take out a mortgage every time you play a game, you've only got 2 games, it gets boring very quickly. So
Yeah.
is that the gaming stuff? What have you got for us in terms of sport?
I had 2 other, one big one on gaming that I wanted to hit, which is something for people to watch. There's a series on YouTube that I found the other day called Devs React to Speed Runs. Speed runs or speed runners are people that kind of play games, will go through a game as fast as possible. So I was watching that, and there's a link to the whole playlist, and then there's some specific ones that I've watched. So one of them was someone playing the demo of the Crash Bandicoot 4 game, and the developers kind of watching it and being like, I didn't even know you could do that. Kind of, being a little bit sad almost. They've spent kind of hundreds of hours on this game and made it kind of super exact on all the jumping, and then this guy is just kind of running along walls and doing, it's just like, I don't even know how he's doing that. Like,
so if you're an artist who's interested in games design as a career, this is definitely a good one to watch.
It's quite interesting. One, just to watch people that are insanely talented, and sometimes they're kind of using glitches and things, but you still have to know where they are and how to do them and where to run through the sky to get to where you need and things like that. But it's also quite funny kind of watching the devs being like, I should probably fix that. Kind of, there's these people kind of just destroy the hundreds of hours that they spent on level design, and he just kind of runs through the wall. And then quickly onto sport, because I'm aware of the time. The two things that I wanted to hit on. Austria have launched their women's blind football team. They are the first European country to have a women's blind football team, and they are the third in the world behind Japan and Argentina. But it is expected that will.
And that's balls with bells, isn't it?
Yes, yeah. So that is further side. And it's expected that number will grow, because next year there's a couple of different women's blind football there's a world camp, and then there's a world championships as well. So it's just great to kind of see the development of women's sport and women's para sport. And then the other one was it has a very catchy title. It is the Tokyo 2020 Recycled Plastic Victory Ceremony Podium Project. Mark and the team probably could have made that slightly shorter. But this was the kind of drive that was launched in June of last year to collect plastic, to make plastic kind of recycled podiums for the games, in a way to kind of reduce the carbon footprint and make sport more sustainable. And they reached that target in March of this year. But I saw an article today that they've collected 24.5 tons of plastic that kind of people in Japan have donated to this kind of initiative. It was kind of 400 or 600,000 detergent bottles. But 24.5 tons of plastic have been donated towards this kind of drive for recycling to make the games sustainable. And I thought, one, it's great, and two, that is a unimaginable amount of plastic. That is huge, but it means it's not in a landfill somewhere. So
yeah, and yes, I'm obviously in a cynical mood today, but I just do recall seeing various podiums that weren't wheelchair accessible or where para athletes couldn't climb up. So I'm hoping with all of that plastic that the para sports ones are at least podiums that wheelchair users and people with missing limbs can climb up on. I might get you to find that out for next week. But like I say, that is just me being cynical. Have you ever been up on a wheelchair accessible podium, Robin?
Oh yeah, I mean the in terms of the Paralympic ones, they were.
Did they
always...
raise them though, or did they do things on the level?
No, they'll have a raise, and it'll be in 3 bits, but with ramps. So you'd ramp up to the third or the silver, and then an extra ramp up to the gold bit. I don't remember the other ramps, the lower ones, only the upper one.
Of course.
Well, As always, we have our highlights and links page under the Together Unlocked TV menu. We will have links to everything we've mentioned, and I shall follow this up myself and have a look at the designs because it sounds really interesting. As an organisation, Together 2012 is committed to recycling and the environment, and indeed, we have been Newham's Green Business of the Year. So, yes, I think that sounds absolutely wonderful. And hopefully, they will recycle the podiums and keep using them rather than just turning them into landfill, because they were literally warehousefuls of stuff that went into landfill after London 2012, despite their environmental commitments. So, we're almost at the end of the show. Coming up on Friday, we will be talking again in the first half about National Poetry Day, looking at everything that happens tomorrow, and perhaps with a few more poems, including from our virtual writer in residence, Penny Pepper. Penny would have loved to have been with us today, but she has gone to Devon with her mum for pretty much a unique holiday after shielding in Hastings since March and only going out to hospital. So, bon voyage, Pen. I know you're on the road at the moment. Coming up, otherwise, on Friday, we have dressing up to go out to stay in. I think we managed to feature a pet for the first time on Friday, but we've decided we're going to continue that and try and dress up at least one of the animals to go out to stay in, because hey, it's just fun, and we have been down here for 7 months already. We'd love to see your dressing up to go out to stay in photos and films indeed. Please do send them to us, info or TV at together2012.org.uk. We'll also be looking at music, visual art, and recommending something for the weekend that you can do online or offline without leaving your home. I'm going to hand over to the rest of you to say goodbye, and then I will finish with a poem from me.
Don't forget the Zoom together tomorrow evening, which is a Zoom in, the details of which can be obtained through our engagement support worker or through info at Together 2012.
Yes, I'm also, as I said earlier, going to put that up on the highlights and links page. But thanks for that, Julie. Yes, Zoom together temporarily, we hope, but I think might also continue in the future for people who can't get out. In the past, we ran a live music night based around open mic, percussion, and a lot of free snacks on the first Friday of the month. We currently Zoom together on the first Thursday, and that also incorporates our poetry cafe. It's obviously shorter. We just run from 7 to 8 because, well, these things are a little bit tricky. Once you go over an hour, it does become very tiring on the screen. Is that it? Should we hand over to the guys?
Yeah, just thank you all for watching and taking part and sharing today. It's been lovely.
Okay, well, goodbye from me, really. Thank you to Ju for reading Emily's poem out so heartfeltedly, because if anyone noticed, I kind of like flushed up a bit there because it was so powerful. So thank you for that, and I'll see you all Friday.
This is probably the time I should say, Robin, that thanks to some incredibly strange thing that's gone on with Google, you've looked quite flushed all the show with a grey background. We know that isn't how you really are, but we just have to live with these things. Like you say, it's not a great week in terms of technical things beyond our control. So, Josh.
Yeah, just wanted to echo what Dad said, and yeah, see you all on Friday.
So this last poem is from me. It's not on, well, I think it probably does link to seeing the world as a poet, but it's actually about something called the Frailty Index, which has been in the news this week. It's a way that people were screened earlier in the year to decide whether or not they should get treated in hospital, and also is just used more generally. Anyway, there's something called a QALY, which is how they decide whether your life is worth saving. And in fact, that has been around for a very long time. This is a poem that I actually wrote quite a bit earlier in the year, but I just felt it was very relevant to the debate this week. So it's called Quality of Life. How much is my life worth, and how can I tell? There's a formula that I know only too well. My life is costed by symptoms, you see. not the value it has to you or to me. You can't fetch top price if you roll round on wheels, even a businessman making big deals. There's a further discount if you can't hold your wee, even if you are an active MP. If you can't see too far or simply can't hear, your life is not considered so dear. There's more off if you need support from another, even if you are a competent mother. And pain is considered a definite no, whether or not people in pain say so. The government costs you before they will give the NHS treatments that you need to live. Your life must be perfect to gain a full quality before you are even put onto a trolley. If you can't leave your house, then your value is cheap. The state won't spend much money for your life to keep. And maybe that's one reason more people die of COVID-19 in the UK. And I am afraid of the verdict if I become ill. Before I sleep, I have miles to go still. We may be a good parent, a partner or neighbour. Whoever we are, we're all more than our labour. Yet whoever we are, our lives are still judged on our cold market value, not how much we're loved. These slavery values must come to an end. What kind of price can you put on a friend? Your brother, your grandma, your child and your wife. How can a price be placed on their life? The values that matter are those we all share. How much we give and how much we care. It's time to abandon the checkbook approach. Love is the quality that matters the most. Have a good day. See you on Friday.